I just spent a week and a half in terrible pain. It started in the middle of my chest, and it spent a few days exploring the rest of my abdomen. I went to the doctor, I got a blood test, I got an ultrasound, no answers. And now, I'm fine. I don't know, man. The thing about pain is, it just drains you completely. I don't think I understood that about pain before. You can sit there and be with it, you can mentally transcend it some of the time, but you can't mentally do anything else. When you're in pain, that's really all you're doing. Today is like the first day that I've been able to think clearly about it, and I've been trying to figure out if there was like a point to it all. I think I'm trying to will it into an experience that was worth my time somehow. Can you do that with pain? Can you take some kind of ownership of it? Can you make it work for you? Okay, here's one good thing it did. It was a total interruption to my usual routine. The way I sleep, the way I eat, the way I move, the way I check my phone, the way I zone out at work, the way I drink. I could not fit into any of my usual grooves for a week and a half, and so coming back to it now, it feels weird and unfamiliar. It's like when you come back from school vacation and you have to, like, remember a locker combination, and it feels kind of dizzy and dreamlike, but you're also like, wait, why do I have to do this? Why do I have to look at Twitter again? Where did I leave off here, and do I have to come back to it? So in that spirit, and also, in the spirit of spring cleaning, I thought we would go through a couple of sort of episodes that didn't really pan out today. I've had this stuff on my computer for a long time, and I'm ready to kind of hit the reset button and move on. So I had an idea for an episode that was just called Sound. It was partly because I was reading this great book by David Byrne called How Music Works, which also assisted in this realization that I had as I looked over some old videos that I made, that sound has always been the main thing that I'm interested in. Like, the rhythm of dialogue has always been more important to me than the content. The monthly vlogs that I make have always just been visual excuses to create a soundscape. So I thought that I would talk about that, and talk to people about the mechanics of sound, and I'd also just play around with microphones and recording equipment for an hour. But when it comes to sound, I am totally untrained and completely guided by instinct. So when it came to do the episode, there was a little bit of that thing where, when you dissect a frog, it dies. Alright, hey, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna take this cassette tape, on which I'm recording my voice right now, and I'm going to throw it outside in the snow for a little while. After a couple days, I'm gonna go get it, I'm gonna dry it off with a hairdryer, and then I'm gonna see what the recording sounds like. Baba booey, baba booey. Okay. That's what the tape sounded like after I did all that stuff, by the way. So, if we learned anything, I guess it's that magnetic tape is much stronger than I'd previously thought. What if I just unravel the tape and crunch it up a little bit? On which I'm recording my voice right now. And I'm going to throw it outside in the snow. Okay, well that kind of worked. But nothing else did. Okay, so I've got Morgan's Korg synthesizer here. It's got a condenser mic input in the back. It's an 1/8" cable. And I use an 1/8" cable with a 1/4" adapter to connect my cassette player to my computer. So I was thinking, is it possible to connect the cassette player to the synthesizer and use the vocoder to distort these old tapes that I found at the estate sale, to distort them further? So let's find out. Condenser mic in. On the basis of okay, so that didn't work. And to be honest, when I was putting the 1/8" cable into the condenser mic input, it definitely felt like it didn't fit. It felt wrong. So I went upstairs, I found my plastic bag full of adapters, and I got another 1/8" to 1/4" adapter, and I'm going to plug it into this line-in input in the synthesizer instead.
People in both parties now suggesting some form of reform may be doable this year. The but nothing like the comprehensive reform President Clinton had been looking for.
I mean, I guess it's clear that I don't totally know what I'm doing here, but I'm not able to get it to work the way a vocoder should work. However, I am able to get it to play through my amp, and my amplifier can distort sound too. I guess I would call this experiment a noble failure. Alright, what about this? A guitar tuned to open D, because I'm only going to have one hand to play it. Connected to the synthesizer, connected to the amplifier, vocoder function on. Let's see. Now, once I got the guitar in the mix, I proceeded to make a lot of weird sounds, so let's also add some random unused interview clips in here just to keep it interesting. I mean, with anything in your life, you have to be willing to allow things to change, you know?
Yeah.
And if you have this big thing, this vision that you're very protective of, yeah, you're going to go crazy or you're going to get hurt. So much of your ideas and creativity, you have to hold on to so lightly if you're going to be okay, you know? There's a famous David Foster Wallace quote that he said, everything I've ever let go of had claw marks on it. And it's so funny because it's one of those things that you'll see like on Tumblr or whatever on like, but you're like, well, but that's an example of what you shouldn't do because David Foster Wallace didn't do so well in terms of like being a person. You know, he had a tough time.
Yeah, I think this is something that I've come to recently as well because of the nature of how I'm approaching trying to be a writer is I'm basically setting out to try and be a hack. I just absolutely just like I'm at the moment just writing as much crap as I can and just trying to get it out there to people, and it's that throwing enough shit at the wall thing where some of it's got to stick.
Yeah.
And I think that that's something that I've learned through this kind of process that I'm going through at the moment, which is to not be precious about any of it. I had a meeting with a TV production company and was sort of talking about some ideas that I had, and I sort of mentioned an idea that has been kind of in my head for decades or whatever, and I'd barely started pitching it, and the guy sort of went, I'm going to stop you there because we're developing something very similar to that at the moment. And you know, that kind of thing could make you just go, oh, fuck this, and just destroy everything. But you got to just kind of go, oh, shit, never mind. Next. What's next?
It can be fun. It can be fun to sort of say, okay, let's see where this thing that I started, let's see where it goes, what happens to it, you know? Maybe it comes back to me. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe whatever. Maybe I lose it. It's all part of the experience. Let's see how much my idea can be warped by other people. Maybe they'll warp it in a good way. I think all it takes too is like the first time that someone has an improvement to your idea, and you see it. The first time you can let it get past you, and you're like defenses, and you're like, that is better. The first time that happens, and you're like, oh shit, like, people can help me with this stuff. And it's like, it's very, being creative can be very lonely. But then when that happens, it's like, oh, maybe it doesn't always have to be lonely. Although most of the time it still does.
I think that's a good thing about, like, co-writing and stuff like that is when, like you say, when somebody just out of the blue will say something that changes the whole thing, and you just like you see it as it was always supposed to be sometimes, where you kind of go, fuck, why didn't we think of that? That's a great moment, I think, and it's always good to be able to defer to other people as well. That's something that collaboration does really well.
I also had this idea to record one of my brother's songs using the way that H4n naturally records different channels, which is to say one on the left and one on the right. Usually when I record with two microphones, I make it mono after the fact, but I thought, what if I don't? That's where a lot of my video and audio ideas come from. What if I take a thing that people normally fix and just don't fix it?
Some are looking up to the stars. Some are looking in the eyes of God. So are we alone? How do you know? Is there something out there? How would you know?
But unfortunately, it sounded better than normal. Hate when that happens.
Is it extraterrestrial? Go ahead, explain the truth. Show me how the stars align. Show me all definitive proof. Let's get one. Ba 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 bee na 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 who ha me do 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 wa kingo gaski boo boo bee bee ba 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 da bee ba 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 bee na 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 who ha me do 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 wa kingo gaski boo boo bee bee ba 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 da bee ba 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 bee na 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 who ha me do 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 wa kingo gaski boo boo bee bee ba 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 da.
I heard an early version of that song, which is by Max Wallace, a while ago, and I asked him to use it on the show sometime, but, I just never had anything good enough to follow it. But anyway, I had another idea for an episode, way back in the early planning days of this season, called The Hardest Part. It was going to just be a bunch of people answering the question, what was the hardest part about X? And actually, if you listen back to some recent episodes, I worked that question into a lot of my interviews, but I couldn't really cleanly separate them back out. Which is fine. But I'm still a little sad that I didn't get to use the world's most perfect musical cue, which you will hear at the end of this clip with John Pernisek. So, my first question for you, okay? You have recently started your new podcast at the Trailers.
Yes.
Of which I am was an immediate and loyal subscriber.
Click.
And yes, what is the hardest part of starting a new podcast?
Oh man, just sort of understanding and accepting, and then understanding and accepting it the next day, and then the next day, and the next day, that just no one's going to be listening to it right off the bat. I think Brandon and I have like a very difficult sort of push and pull with that understanding and acceptance. It's very hard to go from co-hosting How Rude, which had, it was never like a rocket going off to the moon, but by its end, it had a very clear base and it had very consistent numbers week to week. It still does. I mean, it's still available through iTunes, and it still has a very consistent daily download rate, which is pretty surprising. But with starting at the trailers, I mean, it's the most obvious thing in the world, but to know, like, we're at the bottom sort of, again, is very difficult. Because, like, Libsyn, if you're hosting through Libsyn, you can see how many downloads you get in a day. And it's like 3, 5, 6. Like, the day a podcast drops, we'll get like 50. But then it's 3, 5, 6. And like that's just sort of, it's very bracing. It's like a bucket of cold water to the face. Like 3 people listen to your show today.
It is. It's hard, but it also, like, when I think about the olden days of like creative people and musicians and comedians, and they all have stories about like performing for 3 people, kind of thing, in like some shitty club somewhere in Wisconsin, and sometimes I think like, oh yeah, like the low view thing. This is the modern equivalent of that, right? It's this is how you pay your dues or something.
Right. And it's a long process.
I think it's still worse, probably. I don't know
what's harder. Yeah, I don't know what's harder, like doing a live show where you see 3 faces, or you just see the number 3.
And that ain't the hardest part. The hardest part is loving somebody that cares for you.
Okay, time for a found sound interlude. I still have a lot of these tapes.
Okay, couple of
Things you can do to help alleviate the sciatica?
The pain is terrific.
I can imagine, Mary.
And, you said to put the lift in the left.
If you'd like a copy of today's program, send $6.95 to Ryan Recording, P.O. Box 962, Washington, D.C.
I'd like you to meet little Keisha Brown.
And when she slept,
And we're back. So I've never been able to put together an episode about TV shows. There's just too much TV that other people are watching, and too many old episodes of Frasier that I'm watching instead. But, okay, here is a note on my phone containing most of the thoughts that I've had on television lately. Number 1. I never got Mila Kunis as an object of desire, really. I mean, intellectually I got it, but not spiritually, until I saw her as a judge on Chopped Jr., and she got so into following the action in the kitchen that she climbed up on the judge's desk so she could see better. Suddenly, I deeply understood Mila Kunis as an object of desire. Number 2, great news. That's a good show. Happy endings. That's another good show. What accounts for their lack of success? Like, is it possible that the problem is when it came to the title of their show, they missed the bullseye like just a little bit? 3. There is a direct correlation between how much Alison Brie dazzles you as an actress and how long her line of dialogue is. Like, if I had Alison Brie on a TV show, she would speak in paragraphs all the time. And I know I've said this before, but it bears repeating. Marc Maron is so good on Glow. Number 4. I don't think Mindy Kaling gets enough credit for expanding the parameters of sitcom comedy, because, like, sure, lots of shows shift between comedy and drama, but you can usually feel the shift. The Office and The Mindy Project had these startling moments that were made all the more startling for how difficult they were to place on the tonal spectrum. The Mindy Project especially. Like, there was a montage of an engagement being called off set to a Stevie Wonder cover of We Can Work It Out. That's a lot to parse. Number 5. Okay, this is just one line on my phone. It's just casual with a question mark, which sums up my feelings about that show pretty well. For more about TV shows, endings of TV shows specifically, here's me and John Pernisek again. Here's a question. What TV show do you think ended best?
That's a good question, Zach. I told myself I would do that at least once. I was going to say, but I think we've already talked about it. I think Parks and Recreation had an amazing final season. I really loved what they did. I held off on that until I got the complete series on DVD, so I had never seen the final season. And I was I knew that they were going to jump into the future and do a lot of gags like that, but I had no clue that they were going to find what the heart of the entire series was. And I didn't even realize it, which was her relationship with Ron. Yeah. Great story, great way of like expanding on everything that came before it. And I think it made me, I know it made me cry. There's no reason for me to think that I didn't, because they play that song, which is like something about like my buddy. They play it a couple of times.
Oh, yeah.
Like that kind of like
the Willie Nelson.
Yeah. And I never heard it before, but I thought about that like last couple of episodes for days. About how like sweet that song was and how everybody wound up happy. And I think that definitely made me cry. Hannibal had a really good finale. Did you ever follow that at all?
No, but was that intended to be a finale, or was it just kind of an accidental finale?
I think they did a little bit of column A and a little bit of column B, because I think they understood that it was going to be the odds of them coming back were slim to none. So I think Brian Fuller just he made a final moment that he has said that he can write himself out of. But at the same time, it's like you watch the final moment and go, well, I don't see how you could. I mean, Brian Fuller is great, and he's got some trick up his sleeve that I want to, because they keep talking about how it's going to be revived in some form or fashion. But you watch that finale and go, God damn, like it's just 3 seasons, but they do a very good job of building up to the final moment between Hannibal and the guy who's trying to stop Hannibal.
So I haven't talked to really anybody about this yet, other than like texting some friends about it, but I have a feeling that overall, maybe some of the most frequently mentioned shows, if people really think about it, are going to be the ones that maybe didn't stick around that long. Mm-hmm. And I think it's just because once you're around long enough, at a certain point, it's like you've passed the point of being able to end in a satisfying way, you know? Like Parks and Rec, I think, 7 seasons? I think they got it right. I think that's about as long as you can possibly go. Yeah. And I think anything less than that, the odds end up much more in your favor. Mm-hmm. But once you tip over like 8 seasons or something, you're not going to end in a satisfying way. You're going to maybe end in a way that's satisfying to the arc of the current season. Yeah. But your story has become too big for you to wrap your arms around.
You've run out of new things to explore and build upon, and it's just callbacks. Like, especially for comedies, it's just like, your last 3 seasons were basically just callbacks.
Yeah, or you have to just invent a new show, like The Office eventually did, but it took them too long to get there, and even actually The West Wing kind of had to, too. Mm-hmm. Even though that was only 7 seasons, 4 Aaron Sorkin seasons are like 100 seasons of normal person TV show. Yeah. So for those last couple of years of The West Wing, they really had to, first of all, they had to kind of spin in their wheels for a little while.
Which is the worst. And they had the worst when a TV show has to do that.
Yeah, and then they had to figure out a new show. And so, the show ended satisfyingly for the show that existed for seasons 6 and 7 of The West Wing. Yeah. But that's it. And the same with The Office. Like, The Office wrapped up in a way that was true to its new form, but not true to its previous couple years.
I think when you stick with a show for that long and you realize that the wheels have fallen off, when you watch that final episode, if you do feel any satisfaction, it's more like it's for you, like the work that you put in, rather than
it's finally over.
You're not marveling at the work that the creators put in. You're just sitting there going like, I did it. I got here, and I feel some satisfaction of like, I didn't abandon this show because I loved it for a certain number of years. The wheels fell off, but God damn it, I'm a good person, and I stuck with it. I mean, Community got bad. Community got real bad for a while. I stuck with it. I watched that Yahoo season. And
Yeah, I did too,
it got
actually.
better in that Yahoo season. And then when it ended, I was like, well,
Yeah.
it technically has ended 3 times already anyway.
Yeah, and that's actually another show that I think it ended. The 6th season ended true to the spirit of the 6th season. You
Yeah.
know, but I guess with something as fractured as Community, that's almost better than you could possibly hope for.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, the problem with that show was that show spun its wheels in a very interesting way because it didn't know what to do anymore, so it just had the characters relearning the same lessons, which I loathe. I don't like watching people relearn the same lessons. Like, we shouldn't be mean to each other. This is a show about being friends. We should be nice to each other. Like, don't treat people like shit. It's like, yep, yes. If we're just gonna act like every episode's a restart for all of these characters, I can't be on board. Because that's really depressing to watch. Like, watching people make the same mistake in real life is one thing. I can't do it for a TV show.
Well, you know, it seems like I feel like we're right now in an era of particularly the shows that are on right now. There's a lot of like very go for broke TV, like The Good Place and Last Man on Earth are my best 2 examples, where they really destroy any idea of. You keep thinking like, oh, I know how this show's gonna go, and they take that entire idea that you imagine is gonna play out over a season. And they burn it up over the course of 1 episode. And you're like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Like, what happens now? And like, how are characters learning lessons so much faster than I thought they were going to? What's the next thing they're going to learn? You know, like, because like, I think at a certain point, you always end up smarter than most sitcoms. Like, you learn the lesson before the characters do. But now I feel I'm on my heels because it's like the characters in The Good Place have learned the lessons I thought they were going to learn.
Every episode ends with you going, oh, I get it. And then, oh, it gets flipped on its ear. So literally you're like glued to, wait, I thought I had this figured out.
Yeah.
And I think that's what audiences also really appreciate is never getting ahead of the material. And
Yeah.
You're never ahead of this.
Oh yeah, no, that's good. That seemed to like the whole kind of like I don't know what the hell's going to happen. That seems to be a new thing.
Yes.
You know, in terms of TV, like that TV is made now specifically on any level. You cannot guess what's going to happen.
Cable did that.
And now there's something else they're going to learn. So it's like, what's it going to be?
I'm very interested to start The Good Place specifically. I've heard too many good things about it, and without any caveats too. It doesn't seem like people just love it for the sake of like jumping on board. It seems like people are like, no, you don't understand. Like, this is a show that we don't even really deserve.
Yeah, they're doing something that nobody else has done.
And on NBC of all networks.
Yeah, and that's part of the miracle.
It's a miracle.
But I actually think you could take what I assume is the relative success of Last Man on Earth, considering that it's still on the air,
Which is insane.
as reason for how that's possible. Because like Last Man on Earth gets rid of the premise of Last Man on Earth in the first episode.
Right.
So it's like, it really establishes fast, like, we are going to keep throwing away the world that you think you're in. And it's really fun. Like, I really like it. I really like having that kind of viewing experience. And I wonder about how these shows are going to end. I honestly, without saying anything about The Good Place, since you haven't watched it, I feel like The Good Place is one of these shows that's going to end unexpectedly.
Oh yeah, like either it'll get canceled on a season finale that like really blows your mind, and then you'll never get to find out what the fallout is of that, or it'll just do that for fun.
Yeah, no, I think that's almost like part of the plan. Like, I think part of the way that Mike Schur got NBC to do this is if he said like 3 seasons and that's it. And I would not be surprised if they literally didn't tell anyone. Like, I know some show on Showtime did that one time. Like, did a season finale that was a secret series finale.
Wow.
And you didn't know until the end.
Yeah.
I've only watched 1 episode of Horace and Pete so far, the Louis C.K. thing, but I get the sense that it does the same thing. Like, he didn't say this is the last episode. He just put out an episode where clearly the story ended, and then he later on sent an email saying, by the way, that was the last episode.
Yeah, that sounds exactly like Louis C.K. style.
Yeah, and I kind of get the feeling that might happen with The Good Place, but it's also one of these things where if the other thing happens, like you say, if it does get canceled, I'm almost at peace with the idea already because of the storytelling is so good, and maybe then it doesn't have to end. Aziz Ansari ends every season of Master of None saying, I'm never going to make another one, and I never believe him, but I also, I'm fine if he doesn't, because it's so good.
Yeah, I almost wish people would stop asking. I know that's, the job of, people who interview guys like this. TV
bloggers.
Yeah, I mean, I know that's their job. That's that's the most basic question. Are you working on that next season? I almost wish they would stop, because I think we all need to. We've already come to terms with the idea that for a lot of these shows, there are 3 years in between seasons. Sometimes we're you're just gonna have to wait. We're not running on a network model anymore for a lot of these shows. Curb Your Enthusiasm. What was that gap? 5 years?
Yeah. Yeah, and Westworld Season 3, is going to be 2025.
Oh, yeah. And people get mad still. I'm no, you shouldn't get mad. First, absolutely not. You shouldn't get mad, because that is absolutely where we are now. They can't turn these shows out like that anymore, especially a show like Westworld, which is laughably large scale. This, we're not talking about, we're not in the era of, these little chintzy multi-camera sitcoms anymore. For a lot of these shows, it's not a matter of pumping out the sausage. You gotta just let people do their fucking thing. And if Aziz Ansari seems annoyed by the question, maybe think of another question.
Yeah. I think also, maybe this is the antidote to, zombie TV shows. TV shows that ended in the 90s all coming roaring back. That instead...
zombie TV
maybe
shows,
we'll enter...
Not supposed to shows about zombies.
Yeah. No. TV shows that themselves are zombified. Yes. Maybe the answer is that eventually TV shows they'll always kind of be in this state of, is it over, is it not over? Unless, except for the shows where it's every single main character just dies.
And even then.
Yeah, and even then. That conversation with John Pernisek was a while ago, obviously, and I don't really know if I still stand by my comments about the narrative momentum of The Last Man on Earth. It's plateauing, at least at the moment. Also, I still haven't gone back to Horace and Pete episode 2. I'm not even sure if it's still on Hulu anymore, and I'm not sure if that's a good or a bad thing. If we were really doing a TV episode right now, we could maybe get into that kind of question, but we're not, so we don't have to. I know this episode's kind of all over the place, but I kind of feel like that's okay. This show is a portrait of my own brain, and sometimes my brain is just cluttered with nonsense. Maybe you have felt similarly. Sometimes I'm bogged down by a bunch of imaginary and arbitrary obligations that when I finally get around to trying to fulfill them, I find that I never really had to. I had a 3-hour audio file of unused clips from old interviews that I thought I had to use and wanted to put in this episode, and I just listened to the whole thing and used absolutely none of it. Sometimes the thing that stops you from pushing the reset button is the fear that you're letting someone down, but you're not. Just push the button. Just get on with your life. It's gonna be fine. Here's a couple more leftover clips that I liked, then we can get out of here. The first thing we saw today was Lucky, Harry Dean Stanton's final performance, in which he basically plays a Harry Dean Stanton type. David Lynch has a very fun and engaging supporting role as a man who has lost his pet tortoise. What did you think?
I feel like here was an example of a movie that I was enjoying, and I was feeling very feeling like I got it, like I understood what was happening, until I started questioning it, because everybody around us was laughing the whole time. Yeah. And I felt like those were even during moments where I didn't even feel like I wanted to smile or anything. It was I know I'm different when it comes to humor in movies, but it got me questioning myself, am I insane?
I think we have to accept this for a movie that's about acceptance, we have to accept that a fact of life in terms of seeing movies is that people laugh inappropriately all the time.
So you thought it was inappropriate?
Yes. They laugh during moments of discomfort. They laugh during moments of stillness because they can't be still. Mm-hmm. And it's just, I mean, I feel like that was almost kind of part of what the movie was trying to do, trying to reach people like that, and I felt as though toward the end, it was succeeding. Like, I felt like the nervous, unnecessary laughter was kind of starting to subside.
At least behind us.
Yeah, but I mean, in general, yes. People were just laughing at Harry Dean Stanton's appearance. It's like, yeah, he's 90 years old. He walks around and moves around a little funny. That's not the point of the story.
Yeah.
There was a decorated general with a heart of gold. His gun was him, all the stories he told. Has bottles and went lost with letters and gold. And I was heard this man on. But on the battlefield, he gained respect and fame. With many medals and bravery and shots to his name. And he awoke from the dead to tell what he had seen. And on the human great battle with the infantry and the old German tossed in his sleep. He awoke from that night to tell what he had seen. He said, I have seen the other, and I have discovered that this life is not worth fighting.
Now I'm like in this whole world, like I can make any sound in the world now with like these spins and all this shit, and it's amazing. So definitely a different world.
My voice sounds really funny right now, so I just want to record something even though I have nothing in particular to record right now. Christy and I are going through a bin of stuff right now, and I just found a notebook with a bunch of, I suppose, code words to help us remember anecdotes from a trip. 3 earrings lost, never-ending fire, soup in cups, magic hat, Mazza Mazza Mazza, tree trunk tarp pole, axe murderer neighbors, tarp no tarp, rain beach storm, hill spot, 9 stories, re-raw, wood chopping, huge frog, mushrooms everywhere, fire pit beer can, dogfish zin night, lost John Deere, explodey sausages, gritty bed, tarp 3, tarp 1's disappearance, rain in the pan, first shower, Mr. Z's flooding, beer garden, drinking in the bathroom, beers bigger than face, Asian pub, street market burritos, emergency shirt, street pretzel, good morning taekwondo, I remember that.
Yeah.
No cabs, no birthday party. Okay, so cool, that's it, I think, right? We've gone through some stuff. I can go and throw away some things now, and that's going to make me feel better. It's going to make me feel lighter, you know, in my brain and, like, on my chest. I also just feel lighter on my chest because the pain went away. But it's an important thing to do sometimes. Like, just to take an accounting of things and to throw most of those things away. Now we get to do, you know, whatever we want. I feel like there was something big we probably should have talked about on the podcast. Yeah, I don't know. Well, I'm sure I'll think of it by next time. Thanks for listening.